progress.
Worry, observations, righteous discussions, unite people. It's the Word Up Podcast, and I am your host, OMNIETC, Omni, etc. Listen, I really wasn't going to talk about the election, right? I really tried not to. But I'm not actually even here to talk about the election. I'm here to talk about how people are responding to said election. That's really what I'm here to have a discussion about today. What I don't care for most in any election is the carrying on, the divisiveness, the picking the team. It's like we're at the Super Bowl. And it's the same two teams every time we're at the Super Bowl. We know these teams. We know what they're about. Well, some of us believe that we know what they're about. Other of us are very ill-informed. Some people show up only to the Super Bowl. Other individuals have been preparing since last season. There's only ever two teams that are actually taken seriously, and then there's a bunch of other teams that just didn't quite make it. Me personally, right? I find it interesting where all the serious choices are very limited, yet all the frivolous choices are abundant in option. And I'll tell you what that means. I'm going to break down what that means in a second. But until then, let's jump on in. If you could hit the like, subscribe, as well as share out the program, really helps the platform. So yeah, we're in a system where the important decision making, right? The important decisions have fewer options than all the frivolous ones. For instance, with this election, the main two parties that are actually being considered seriously, Democrat, Republican. Those are the two sides of the coin when it comes to selection in the country. If you're going to be a straight ticket voter, which in most cases, most people are. However, I could walk into any gas station, and for my individual person, I can get Coke, Pepsi, Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi, Mountain Dew. It's like 7 flavors of Mountain Dew at this point. I can get a slushie. I could get probably 5 different flavors of slushie. Even further, I can get, let's take it away from the drinks. I could get a donut. I could get a Danish. I could get, what else do I have at the gas station? Every Hostess product known to man. I can get every form of Little Debbie, from the snowballs to the Swiss rolls. A lot of things are easily accessible. That's my point. When it comes to decision making, that has very little impact on your day-to-day life. But the things that seemingly have the greatest impact, seems like those options are rather limited. And that's how I look at politics. So it's been very interesting to me looking at what exactly is going on in regards to the election. But what's even more interesting is how people are responding in said election. I I don't understand it. Like people dehumanize the other side to the point where it's like, oh yeah, you don't even have the right to live anymore because of what you believe for your own life. Or just because maybe you're positioned differently than I in your current socioeconomic stances or your current socioeconomic standing, pardon me, that you can't even hope to see life from the perspective of another individual, and you can't even hope to gain anything from anybody around you. Me personally, I'm of the belief that I can learn anything, I can learn something from anybody. Something. There's a lesson in every human being that I interact with. There's a lesson. And that's why I want this platform to be more about. I want this platform to be more about not so much me coming from a position of, self righteousness or trying to say that I'm some sort of authority figure, but for us together to find the truth and have fun in doing so. To be more, I'm not going to say inclusive, but to be less divisive, be more respectful of other perspectives. And in doing so, maybe we'll find some common ground. Maybe we'll all at the end of the day realize that we're human beings. But this election cycle in particular has been one of the goofiest political situations I have ever seen. And the first time I voted was during Obama's presidency. A lot of goofy shit went on during Obama's run for office. The asking of birth certificates, the not wanting to give up oh no, that was Hillary, but I was around for that one too. Talking about Trump not wanting to divulge financial documentation, tax records, and such. Um, but wanting Obama to show his birth certificate, long form, not short form, for some reason. But all of these things were very goofy. All of these things were some goofy moments. We had some goofy bits. And pretty much every election, every modern election, even when you talk about George Bush, you know what I'm saying, the recount down in Florida, that was a big thing when I was growing up. But this is some of the goofiest stuff. And you know what politicians back in the day had the advantage of? They had the advantage of they could lie to your face and there was some hope of you believing the lie because there was nothing to cross reference. The internet wasn't even a thing, or at least it wasn't as sophisticated as it is today. Where today we could put up two videos back to back, one after the other, and instantly catch them lying. But my question is, politicians lie. We know that they lie. A lot of them tell untruths, half truths. They omit the truth. A lot of times, whether they're running for election or they are actually in office. We know this about politicians, but for some reason, we expect them not to. When they're human, they're flesh and blood, just like you and I. They can make mistakes. They can say, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of times they just outright lie. But what is the true weight of that lie? What is the true weight of any politician? What is the true weight of the government? What does it mean for your life in the next 4 years if a certain politician gets into a position that you find favorable? Will they actually come through on their campaign promises? Like Biden didn't come through on student loan forgiveness. He did some things to get rid of some of the debt, but he didn't erase the debt like he promised he would, because it would have bankrupted the system. It is what it is. So actually, I'm glad that he didn't fulfill that promise, that campaign promise. I don't have student loan debts. I did, and I paid mine off. So what if I would have, since I paid off some student loans, do I get that money back as a person that paid it off? Like, there's a lot of questions that don't necessarily stop at student loan forgiveness. It's like the people that already paid back. Like the day before you enact the policy of student loan forgiveness, let's say it worked, right? And everybody got to have their loans paid off, or loans forgiven, excuse me. But the day before you enact this policy or this bill gets passed into law, the day before, I just finished paying off my student loans. Do I get that money back? Or am I just asked out? I would challenge that I'm asked out. I would. In that particular circumstance. So hold on. Why is it on that one? So some politicians say that they're running on principle, but honestly, in a lot of these things, we see a lot of posturing. A lot of posturing. It's not, they don't run on principle. They really run on image, their self-image, and what they're projecting to the people that are supposed to supposedly support them. It's a lot of posturing. It's not really principle. And honestly, I was of the mind, it was like, you know what? At a time, I was like, you know what? Some things I was willing to let go. Some things I was willing to let go. I was going to be like, yeah, I can let that go. 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 As long as they're going to deliver on what they promise. But they rarely do. They rarely do. Biden was supposed to turn this economy around, was supposed to make a better economy. We're worse off than we have been in the past 8 years. And mind you, that's with the pandemic and everything considered. The effects of the pandemic are still going on, regardless of what anyone says. From a financial perspective, we have housing crisis, but it's not really that people aren't able to find housing. It's the affordability of housing, because the financial system's out of control. Banks are tanking left and right. The media is not really reporting on that right now, because it's an election cycle. So they don't want you to look at the banks during the election cycle, because the bank's going to need a bailout. So we got banks failing left and right. More politicians lying. And I'm like, what does this mean for your personal life? Because at the end of the day, that's when you're in that booth making a decision, that's what it really comes down to. And what are your expectations in government? And this is why I titled the show today, Not Your Mama, Not Your Daddy. Because the more and more I listen to people talk about where their expectations in government is, what they want from the government, right? What I hear a lot of people talking about, especially people that are liberal, people that are more left leaning in ideology, right? It sounds like the government is taking on parental aspects, or at least has been, and some people would like to see that continue. What do I mean by parental aspects? Right? Provision of basic needs. Government can provide essential services like healthcare, education, social safety nets, much like a parent provides food, shelter, and care for their children. Um, this can be done through social programs, public education, which is getting worse and worse throughout the country. Of course, another parental aspect of government, setting rules and boundaries. The government is there to put certain protocols in place, certain rules in place, certain boundaries in place, certain um, protections, if you will. Governments tend to have laws to maintain order, to protect the citizens, but some are not to do some more harm than good. Let's be honest. Similar to how parents would set household rules to ensure a safe environment. Protective oversight, just as parents monitor the children's actions for safety. Governments can oversee activities to protect public welfare. That's why things like the FDA exists. Although I'm very suspicious as to why it's both the Food and Drug Administration, when I think that entity should be separated, should be divided in twain, and it should be food over here and drug over here specifically. Let's say you plan on putting food, drugs in food. Intervention in a time of crisis. You know what I'm saying? Often parents have to be the mediator between siblings. And I said in the last episode, the government is really, well, I broke down the concept of the streets and what the streets is, right? The streets is essentially just a two-party system. When you're dealing with transaction, when you're dealing with trade, um, in dealing with people. So it's just you and the other party. It's two-party system. It's basically what the streets comes down to. Two-party system, but then there's also politics within that in and of itself. But it's basically having two people deal with each other without a mediator so that they can have some, tax-free money, trade whatever they want to trade. So the government in most business dealings is a third party mediator. That's why we have contracts. So that if you don't hold up your side of the bargain, then, I'll take you to court. You could be sued, or you could be found in breach of contract, in which there's certain reparations, certain, it's another R word. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Restitution has to be paid. Something of a restorative nature in order to amend the agreement that was broken. All of these things play into all of these things play into uh, the government's seemingly parental role in society. It seems like the government's taking on a parental role in society. Which brings me down to the two candidates that I don't even like talking about. The big vote. I promised I wasn't going to talk about this at all. I wasn't going to do anything politically related at all. But the goofiness has got to stop. Each side thinks, each side in this debacle, right? Let me put this down like that. Each side believes that they have the best candidate that has ever existed. And I haven't seen, well, I've never seen a perfect person as long as I've been on Earth. And I definitely uh, don't know of a single person that's perfect since Jesus Christ. I don't know of another individual. So when it comes down to the big vote, does this vote actually matter? People are up in arms. A lot of people look at Donald Trump as a father figure. A lot of people are internalizing Kamala Harris as their mama. She's not your mother, and he's not your father. Ain't your mama, ain't your daddy. And you would be disappointed in this behavior from your parents because your parents are supposed to protect you. But these people don't love you. When you step outside the house every day, they don't love you. And you must move and act accordingly. They don't love you out there. The reasons why they're running for office is the reasons why they're running for office. And it may have nothing to do with you. Do they even know your name? Of course they don't, unless you made yourself known to them. Of course they don't. Now look at this. This is Kamala Harris, right? And this is Kamala Harris. What's the difference? This is Kamala Harris about 5 days ago. This is Kamala Harris during the 2016 election. No. I'm sorry. Not the 2016, the 2020, excuse me. During the 2020 campaign, when she was the running mate for Joe. Now, a big point of contention has always been energy. Energy has always been a big thing. You know, how are we going to power our devices? I got a room full of devices. How am I going to power these devices? Is it going to cost more? How are we going to get it to cost less? What's the most efficient way to create energy? Energy. As it stands now, oil still keeps the light on. Surprise. Oil still keeps the light on. And to bridge our energy gaps, nuclear is a necessary evil. Yes, it has a lot of problems, radiation, contamination, all of that. Nuclear waste, all of that. But right now, it's the best option that we have outside of oil in and of itself, coal and oil, right? But here's the thing. When we have our politicians, we want them to be stern, and we want them to stand on what they say. We want them to say what they mean and mean what they say, essentially. So I'm going to play what Kamala just said. This is what Kamala just said like 5 days ago.
When you were in Congress, you supported the Green New Deal. And in 2019, you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania.
Sure.
Do you still want to ban fracking?
This is her today. This is Kamala today.
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
Okay. And this is Kamala at a town hall in 2020.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right?
And you know what's crazy about this? You know what's absolutely insane about this? Hold on. Where is it? You could look at it in CNN. There's CNN. These are two CNN clips. You could look at it, and in the search, all you have to do is type in Kamala Harris fracking, and these two videos are just right next to each other. I tell you, man, the day of politicians lying to your face is over with, because we could just play the videos side by side. This is something that we haven't had in years past. We could just play the videos side by side. And we can see them lying to us in real time. Now, we're going to get into Donald Trump's lies as well. But look at this, side by side.
When you were in Congress, you supported the Green New Deal. And in 2019, you said, quote, there is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly
2019, in 2019.
in your must-win state of Pennsylvania.
Sure.
Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020.
Kamala Harris in 2020.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
And back in the day, we didn't have the technology to run it back side by side like this. So politicians have become so, especially career politicians, right? They've become so accustomed to just lying to your face or misspeaking or being so comfortable in the moment, telling you whatever you want to hear, that they will just say whatever gets them over in the moment. It's absolutely incredible. So everybody's up in arms over this election. To me, I see it no different from any other election. Fuck them both. Who's got the best deal? That's basically my whole thing. Screw them both. Fuck them both. Who has the best deal? And who's most likely to see it through? So first you got to start with who has the best deal for you in your particular situation, as you see it. And then second, you got to measure how often do they actually come through on what they say that they're going to do? How often? Do they start the job and not finish it? Do they just say wild shit that they're going to do and never do it? Do they even attempt to try? Or do they just make a bunch of promises and when the bill comes due, it's like, Those are my main two criteria at this point, because trusting a politician's character, it's not in me. There's no place in me. It cannot go off of any politician's character. Cannot. It has to be policy based. It has to be who has the better deal and who's most likely to carry it through. For me, that's my criteria. But trusting a politician's character, someone who I've never met personally. And then we're talking about the big vote. You know what the biggest vote is? The biggest vote is every time you hit the cash register every day of your life. Every time you pump gas at a particular gas station, you're keeping that gas station alive. Actually, you're not, because I actually worked at a gas station. And I understood from my experience working in a gas station that the gas is the loss leader, if you understand sales. So in sales, there's an MVP, a most viable product, the product that actually makes money. And then to get you to stand in front of that product, for you to decide whether or not you're going to make the purchase on the MVP, the most viable product, there is a loss leader. It's what's called a loss leader. Its job is to generate the lead, foot traffic into the store. So that's why there's all these signs where you're at the gas pumps. Step in and get the big gulp or whatever. Get the big gulp. Come on in, 2 for $5 on roller items or what have you. It's because the roller items, the taquitos, the fountain drinks, those actually have better profit margins than the gasoline in of itself. And a lot of stations, they're almost selling it to you at cost, almost. When you after accounting for taxes and things like that, of course. Most gas stations are selling to you nearly at cost for the gasoline. But they have all of these signs out there because you might be hungry, you might be thirsty, and you might want to step inside. And then you have all of these decisions to make when you step inside. It's interesting how our minds work. Like, people only think that they have 2 decisions in this election because only 2 decisions are being presented to them the most. There's a lot of decisions that you have to make, actually. Like, everybody's talking about the president. I haven't seen anybody talk about U.S. representatives for their particular states. That's on the docket. That's going to be at the ballot box. I haven't heard a peep of that. Although there was a gentleman that was running it here where I live, and I'm probably going to vote for him because I have his literature. Hold on. Let me see. He walked up on me. 1 second. He was hand to hand with it, and I like my politicians that way, actually. You know what I'm saying? He had a televised statement to Louisville Metro Council by Daniel Cobble. It's 2 pages, 2-page document. I read through it. It's talking about the roads here, which potholes here in Kentucky are ridiculous. He also digs into Kamala Harris a little bit, and talks about Jamie Dimon and T-Mobile, which T-Mobile is like one of the biggest ISP phone providers out here. But how much do we trust these politicians, and how much effect do they actually have over our lives? Now, I'm quoted on several platforms as saying that the best overhead I've ever had was under a Donald Trump presidency. This is the best household overhead I've had. And it's true. However, something about his character I find flawed. Something about Kamala's character I find flawed. So both of them are not winning in the character category with me. Donald Trump is more charismatic. I can see that being a hit overseas when he's got to speak to foreign leaders. Out of the two, he can. His freestyle game is a lot better than Kamala's. Kamala relies on the teleprompter a lot. Donald Trump is more of the guy to go away from the teleprompter or disregard it entirely. I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing, but it shows that he can think on his feet in ways that Kamala doesn't. And I think that's very important when you're in rooms with foreign politicians trying to hash out certain deals on behalf of the nation. I find that to be a trait that is valuable. When it comes to policy, it's going to go back to character to me, because the character is the foundation for me of whether or not they're going to follow through on the policy. And they both dropped the ball on that for me. And this is just me. But everybody's so up in arms. Everybody is ready to like stab each other in the eye. Everybody's ready to commit egregious acts against one another. I want everybody to calm down and breathe. Because Donald Trump's not your daddy. And Kamala Harris is not your mama. You don't owe these people that amount of loyalty. You don't owe these people that amount of energy. For you wanting to cause physical bodily harm to another individual just because of who they vote for. It's never that serious. And I'm quoted as saying, well, you can quote me as saying, this vote isn't nearly as important as the vote that we do every day with our hard-earned dollars. The votes that we cast with our hard-earned dollars every single day will be far more impactful and far more substantial to our individual lives than this vote here. The gas station you decide to go to. The clothes you decide to rock. You're keeping these businesses open by patronizing them. I'm sorry, not patronizing, patronizing. You're keeping these businesses open. In effect, you're voting with your hard-earned dollars, with your money. Every single day. And for some reason, nobody's judging you. Well, it depends. It depends on what you're buying and how obviously you are buying it. But to a certain degree. But very few people will judge you for buying a pack of Skittles. And Skittles has been around forever. Again, it goes back to the frivolous decisions that we have to make being abundant. Because I could go to the store, get Skittles, M&Ms, all of that. But you mean to tell me I only have two options when it comes to what is supposed to be the most important decision for the next 4 years? I think everybody needs to adopt the mindset of, regardless of who the president is, who's sitting in that seat, what they're doing, right? You as a person need to be of the mindset that I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure me and mine's are straight. That's what I truly believe everybody needs more of a dose of. Back to character. And this is going to get funnier as we go along. When it comes to this, the laughs just continue, right? The things that I find on these politicians, the things that I find about these politicians that are so peculiar, but they're peculiar, but they're really obvious at the same time. If you're looking at it, like, look, yeah, here we go. So when we talk, this is going to be more on Kamala Harris, right? When we talk about Kamala Harris, the repeating the same lines over and over and the pandering from the Democrat Party is notorious. Take a look at this. It's ridiculous.
We are reminded weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. Joy cometh in the morning. That while weeping may endure for a night, joy cometh in the morning.
You know what that reminds me of? Hold on.
God bless America and no place else. God bless America and no place else.
So there is a whole rehearsed, overdone thing, and in the context of what we're talking about, what is she actually saying? I'm befuddled. What is she actually saying in there? That joy cometh in the morning. So if she's the presidency, if she wins the presidency, she's the morning, or is she the harsh time that she's talking about? Like, this is what I don't understand.
That while weeping may endure
Yeah, the weeping.
for a night, joy cometh in the morning.
It's the same line over and over and over. It's redundant, it's rehearsed. And most politicians do this. And honestly, most of the populace are just tired of it. Now let's get into Donald Trump's lies. He was on the Joe Rogan Experience. I don't know how much of this I could actually play. And it's not divided into chapters. So I want to see where we're going to get with this. But he was on Joe Rogan, and brilliantly so, because this did football numbers. Oh my God. I didn't even know it was that much. Right now it's sitting at 44 mil. 44 mil. So podcasting is like the new platform for this experience. I guess more politicians are going to be visiting. I know his running mate came on after him. I'm sure that did numbers as well. But Donald Trump lied several times, told half or untruths several times in this podcast. Let's start it off.
Started winning in the polls, and then the machine started working towards you.
Yeah.
But there's probably no one in history that I've ever seen that's been attacked the way you've been attacked, and the way they've done it, so coordinated and systematically. And when you see those same people in the past, very favorable to you, like Oprah, when you were on Oprah's show,
Very.
she was encouraging you to
Last
be
week,
president.
I did one of her last shows. I think maybe Thursday or Friday. That was a big deal being on Oprah's show, the last one, and I was like one of the last shows in that final week. And I said, "Boy, we've come a long way since that."
What was it like?
Well, the concept, it was really like two different lives. You know, I had a very wonderful life, but I wanted to do this. The Apprentice was still going very strong. We had 12 seasons, and we had actually 14 seasons, 12 years over. They had a couple
Well,
of
they
them.
canceled The Apprentice when you were running for president, correct?
No, they had Arnold Schwarzenegger do it. I was involved in that, and I had enough of it, and we did great. It was doing great, but they wanted me to stay. They all came to see me. They said, "We're going to give you a contract." They wanted to extend my contract. Mark Burnett is a great guy, and they wanted to extend the contract. Mark said, "You're crazy. Don't run. Don't run." No.
Okay, so this is what Donald Trump does when he starts talking with his hands. I've noticed this. And just like we saw with Kamala a second ago, it's the mannerisms, it's the redundancy for me. He will always throw out a compliment with people that he finds favor with certain people that he finds favor with. And then anybody that ever says anything against him, he feels the need to address it at every turn, which I guess you can, but a lot of people are just not worth responding to, in my opinion. So that goes into his mannerisms, but let's talk about his sentiments towards The View. And the thing that keeps coming up, that came up again in this interview with him, is when he talks about The View, and he talks about the host and the people that were messing with, like, showing him favor in his mind. They have a different story. They have a different take. And honestly, the camera doesn't hide. The camera doesn't lie. The camera doesn't lie. It's well known that a part of certain industries, especially the entertainment industry, it's about playing the game. It's not who you know. It's not what you know. It's who you know. It's about shaking hands, rubbing elbows, favor for a favor. And you run across certain people. You may run across certain people in the industry that you care for or that you don't care for. And so you have to navigate that with a sense of tact, with a sense of, okay, let me give them grace. They're not going to be in my face that long. I don't have to worry about them. From what I saw, and I hope I don't get blocked by The View for playing this, but I got to play this. I'm compelled to play this. What they're talking about with Donald Trump having these good relationships beforehand, in retrospect, it really seems like nobody could really stand his ass. And, well, no, that's just it. They did stand his ass. He was tolerated. He wasn't really celebrated. He was tolerated because he was rich, because he gained notoriety the ways that he gained notoriety. And, you know what I'm saying, he had people in the entertainment industry. At first, he wasn't in the entertainment industry, not all the way. He did like cameos for Home Alone and things like that, cameo appearances in Home Alone. He did things here and there, but he wasn't really in the entertainment industry until The Apprentice, his show, his reality show. So when they're thinking about, oh, Trump had all of these good connections and people treated him so well before his presidency, let me show you this clip. Let me show you this clip from The View, because Whoopi's got something to say and she wants to break it down.
You know who made a campaign stop on the Joe Rogan podcast Friday night? And with all the issues Americans are going to be voting on, you know where they started the interview? Take a look.
They didn't really start the interview there, as we just saw. They didn't start the interview, so she got that wrong, clearly. But this is funny, I thought. So let's continue.
Was the episode of you when you were on The View, and I think it was 2015 or 2006, like when you were running for president.
Right.
Okay, let's stop there. There's a lot of fake news coming up, so we're going to clear some of it up as it happens. He was actually, in that clip, is 2011, 4 years before he announced he was running. Okay? That's the first thing they got wrong. Next.
This is true.
You got introduced as our friend Donald Trump.
That's right.
Whoopi Goldberg gives you a big hug and a kiss. Joy Behar gives you a big hug. Barbara Walters gives you a big hug. They all loved you.
So here's the actual appearance. Watch.
Donald Trump is a billionaire, a real estate mogul, and a television star. But does he really want to add President of the United States to his resume? A lot of people would like him to. Please, let's find out, and please welcome my friend.
Like, Whoopi in this scene looks like a hostage. And I'm going to stop it there before I get, you know what I'm saying, before I'm forced to cut out too much. I'm going to stop it there before I'm forced to cut out too much, right? She looks like she's being held hostage. She looks very much like she doesn't want to be here. She looks like she's just doing her job. She doesn't really... This is just a part of her job, and she doesn't want to... She doesn't want to rock the boat, essentially, like she did when she had those sentiments towards the little hat people. She doesn't want to rock the boat here, so she's just going along to get along. And I really wish people would stop going along to get along. In the long run, it doesn't serve you. Because if you were just upfront about your discuss and how you didn't rock with them in the first place, this even wouldn't be something that you needed to clean up.
And Donald Trump.
Hold on, the way that she said Donald Trump. Go back.
Let's find out, and please welcome my friend.
You see when she said friend, like, you got to really read the body language. That was a very distressed friend, if you just look at her face.
But does he really want to add President of the United States to his resume? A lot of people would like him to. Please, let's find out, and please welcome my friend.
That was a very distressed friend. My friend? Like, Barbara didn't want to say that. But it's on the teleprompter, so she has to read the teleprompter. She's paid to read the teleprompter. And it's all a production. It's all about making the guests feel warm, welcome, invited, et cetera, et cetera. So when Donald Trump says things like he had so many friends, everybody rocked with him beforehand, understand that people didn't rock with him, they rocked with his persona. Same thing with Diddy. Diddy had so many friends, people rocked with him. No, they rocked with you because of your positioning, because of the space that you worked yourself into. They rocked with the throne. They didn't rock with you as an individual person. And that's the distinction that needs to be made. You were tolerated because you had wealth, you had power, you had riches. But the closer and closer we put you towards that seat, we see what everybody actually thinks about you. We see what everybody actually thinks about you the closer and closer you got to the presidency. What Whoopi thought about him, what she expressed verbally during the election for his first term, is written on her face in this clip. She thought about that a while ago, but she only verbally expressed it the closer it came to election time. So with that, I say that people aren't really their true selves in most cases. Most people are conditioned to go along to get along and not really tell you what they think. While me being an idiot, complete fool, a complete fucking fool. I operate in society always saying what I think, and most people don't. Because I know in the long term, we're better for being honest. Because if she would have just told the producers, "Yeah, I don't want him on the show," da da da. If all of the hosts of the show was like, "Yeah, we don't want to do it. We don't want to have Donald Trump. We know about how he is," and da da. It's written on Whoopi's face. This is from 2011. It's written on her face from back then. All on her face. This is right before he walked out on The View in 2011. This is how she felt about Donald Trump back then. I tell you something, a black woman's face never lies. A black woman's face never lies. This is how she felt about Donald Trump back then. But she didn't verbally express it because she's playing the game. The industry game, the image game, the posture game, the I gotta keep up appearances game. Gotta let the guests feel welcome, even though I don't really mess with them like that game. This is what's going on. But unable to read the room, Donald Trump's ass is like, "Oh no, everybody loved me back in the day. Everybody was rocking with me. Da 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 da. I was on all the rappers' videos. They mentioned me in all the songs." Until they probably got around you, and Whoopi's been around Donald, and she knows how he really is in person. So to have him come out on a show of which she's the host, talking about, "I want to be president of the United States of America," her face is saying, "This has got to be a joke, right? Y'all done lost your damn mind." That's what her face is saying. That's what her face is saying. Y'all done lost your damn mind. Donald, grab him by the Donald. So when I get into disagreements, not full blown arguments, but when I get into disagreements with my family on, you know what I'm saying, who I'm voting for and why I should be voting and all of this, it's like I can't trust either candidate. We're still at the lesser of two evils. We're still at the lesser of two evils. You know what the choice of lesser two evils is? All right, I'm going to present this parable. Not this parable. This paradox. Quite frankly, it's my favorite paradox. It is the best paradox I've ever heard that encapsulates the human experience in a massive social climate, right? Great evil is taking over the land. It's soon to win. It's going to take over everything. This evil is going to take over everything. And that's just going to be the end of the story. You know, if you stay steadfast in righteousness, this evil is definitely going to conquer everything, and you're going to perish as a result of standing in righteousness, standing on your righteous principles, right? But there's a chance that you can defeat this evil if you commit another evil. The only way to defeat this great evil, this perceived great evil, is to commit another evil act. The paradox being, in either case, evil remains. The paradox being, in either case, evil remains. So you commit this evil act, evil still won at the end of the day. So evil remains in either case. Question is do you stand fast in righteousness in order to in order to stand up to the evil, even though you know that you're not going to, even though you know you're not going to make it? Or do you defeat evil by committing another evil? In either case, evil remains. In either case, evil remains. In either case. Do you stay steadfast in righteousness knowing that you're going to be defeated by evil? Or do you commit another evil to defeat the perceived greater evil? In either case, evil remains. Another layer of the paradox is, were you ever truly committed to your righteous ways if you resorted to evil to defeat the perceived greater evil? Did you even believe in righteousness to begin with? And this is how I look at politics. That's how I look at politics. And that's why many of us call it politricks. Donald Trump's not showing up at my house. Kamala Harris is not showing up at my house. They likely don't even know that I exist. Why would I let these individuals affect me? Why would I allow them to affect me more than they actually can? Or more than they actually have the power to? At the end of the day, your decision making is your greatest tool for insulation from the bullshit. One person is in office, probably doesn't know what they're doing. Things are probably going to be a little bit harder. Somebody else is in office, they know what they're doing, but they have nefarious intent. Things might be a little bit harder. If in either case evil remains, then prepare for evil. If evil never comes, then you still are better off having prepared. Worry Observations, Righteous Discussions, Unite People. It's the Word Up Podcast, and I've been your host, OMNIETC, Omni, etc. Listen, Replay Gang, do your thing. Shout out everybody that came through, that stopped just to listen. Love everybody. And just be more centered in yourself. You know what I'm saying? Try to be more centered in yourself and who you are, what it is that you want to accomplish, regardless of who's in office. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of whether or not we're in gas-powered vehicles or electric vehicles. Regardless of what job you work, whether you work white collar, blue collar, whatever tax bracket you may find yourself in. Be concerned about your life first, and what's most important, and what is reflective of giving you the best possible outcomes, or putting you in the best possible space within your own life. That's how I'm playing it. It's been the Word Up Podcast. Get with me in the comment section. Oh, we got somebody. Oh, Akron Slim, formerly known as Butterfly Jones. Peace, family. We out.